This past fall, when heading to Florida, we stopped by Assateague National Seashore. Now, if you're not familiar with the island, it spans Maryland and Virginia, and it's home to the famous wild horses of Assateague and Chincoteague. We also stopped by the same campground on our way back in New Hampshire in the spring. Now, the National Seashore Campground is run by the National Park Service and provides off-grid camping. It provided a great place to test our off-grid system, especially our 1,200 watts of solar and our 600 amp hours of lithium batteries, to compare the solar output on sunny and cloudy days, as well as the spring and the fall, and to find out how much we had to run our generator. I'm Steve.
I'm Nancy, and together with Mars, the blind Sheltie,
And Phoebe, the warrior princess,
we are living our dream.
Our goal is to travel the U.S. and Canada in our 2016 Tiffin Open Road,
while spreading the messages taught to us by our pets.
keep smiling.
And be kind.
Join us on our travels by subscribing to our channel as we continue our great adventure.
And don't forget to leave us a comment to let us know how we are doing.
The sun's coming in from that side. So Nancy's cutting up some extra reflectix to put in the window because our Gerard awning needs to be repaired. We bought that window awning just so it would cover this window when it was in the sun, but do what you got to do. So we got to Assateague, 100% batteries, solar's doing great, and we got a generator there, got a generator over there, and we got a generator there. So we're going to see how long we can go without our generator. That's the plan. But if we have to use it, we'll use it for a couple hours to recharge things. If it really gets hotter than this, I think this is the hottest it's going to get the 5 days we're here. 87 degrees inside. We've got both fans blowing. I don't think it's going to get much hotter. If it did, we could run the AC for 30 minutes to an hour. Looking good so far. So this is how we beat the heat. You sit outside with a couple of cool drinks. Cooler out here than it is in there. We'll let it cool off.
Mars.
You think so, Mars? I know. They're running their generator, but that's okay. They need it.
Dogs everywhere.
So we've been here at Assateague National Seashore in the campground for just about 24 hours. And we've been unplugged the whole time. So this is really the first test of our solar and how much it brings in. Well, it's late October, nice sunny day, but the sun's still pretty low. So the actual solar is not, the full 1,200 watts that we have on the top of the roof. As a matter of fact, we're lucky to get up to 400 watts at the peak of the sunshine. So we're probably going to have to use the generator, but that's okay. That's part of what we wanted to check out. Coming in the middle of the summer probably would be different, but then we'd have to use more power to try to cool the place down. It's been perfect temperatures here at Assateague, so that's looking good. One of the considerations I'm thinking of doing is adding 400 to 600 watts of portable solar panels that I can deploy on the ground. I can then point those directly at the sun, and that'll give me a lot more, hopefully maybe even doubling my solar capacity on days in late October like this. So we'll take a look and see, but for now we're pretty happy. So I guess we'll have to run the generator for a few hours. Well, it's forecast to be a cloudy, rainy day today. It started off being foggy. So we thought we'd go through the day and just show you how we make it off-grid with our solar. We've got 1,200 watts of solar on the roof. We have 600 amp hours of battery. And on a cloudy, rainy day like this, we're gonna have to run the generator a little bit. So this is why we call it our hybrid solar system. So first thing in the morning, we get up and it's a little cool this morning, so we'll go ahead and turn on the heat. We use the propane heat to warm things up when we're off grid. And then we take Mars out, for his morning walk. And then we'll go check the batteries, see what they're up to. You can see why this park is unique. The wild horses of Assateague freely roam the park and often visit the campsites as they did on this cold, gray day. Now, on cloudy days, when I know the solar can't keep up with our energy demands, we often will run the generator for about an hour in the morning and an hour or so in the evenings to top off our batteries. Now, since our generator generates about 3,000 watts and the inverter only uses about 1,500 watts to charge the batteries, we've got a little extra power, so we're going to go ahead and use the induction to make our coffee or do any cooking that we might want to do. We do that in the mornings, and we also do that in the evenings for dinner. So use as much of the electricity from the generator as possible. One thing to note, you'll see that DC power is drawing almost 400 watts. That's actually the propane heater because of the fan that it uses to blow the heat through. So when you're using propane heat, you do use a few hundred watts of electricity to go ahead and blow the fans. So after just a few minutes, the coffee has started to percolate. I can turn this down. Alexa, set 14-minute timer. And that drastically reduces the amount of power that we're drawing in, allowing most of the power to go to charging our batteries now. And as you see, we are pulling in a little bit of solar right now. 9 o'clock in the morning on a cloudy, foggy day, we still got 78 watts. So we'll run the generator till we bring the batteries up to about 90%, because there is a chance that solar could keep us going. And then we'll turn the generator off. So our coffee is percolated. We'll turn that off and we'll get it ready. But what that means is we really don't have any high draw devices pulling from the generator. So the generator can put as much power as it wants into the batteries. But again, because our inverter limits that to about 1,500 watts, instead of using the full 3,000 watts from the generator, it'll go down to about 2,000 watts, supplying the needs of the coach, the refrigerator, the TV, the lights that we're using. And that's usually the 200 to 400 watts that it'll pull in for that. And then put about 1,500 watts into the battery. And that's what it looks like. Now the DC power at about 200 watts, a lot of that is the inverter. So the inverter takes extra power so that it does charge the batteries, and that's why I have extra DC power. When I turn the generator off, that'll go down significantly. But since the refrigerator compressor is not on, we're just running some lights, the TV. That's why it's only 100 watts of AC load. Well, after about an hour and a half, we have our generator running. Our battery now is up to about 91%. I figure we can get about 20% for every 20% of battery charge for every hour we run the generator. So I'm going to stop it at 90%. Why? Because the solar, I still don't know exactly how much the solar is going to bring in, but it, even on a cloudy day, might be able to keep up with what we have. So I don't want to run it to 100% because then I might be wasting solar. So let's go ahead and turn off the generator. And I'm sure everybody else will be happy that we've stopped that. So as you can see, no power coming in from input. We're at 90%. We've got about 40 watts of solar, still drawing about 184 watts from the battery. That's okay. And as solar goes up, it could catch up, or if it goes down, we'll recharge this evening when we cook dinner. One app that I do like to use to actually project what kind of solar I get is a weather app called Windy. Now, Windy is coming really handy when I want to predict wind for travel days and whatever. But if I also go to Windy, it has the ability of looking at solar. So there is a view that predicts the solar power that could be coming in. So on cloudy days, it's going to be a little bit less. Now, it does take a little bit of getting used to. We'll take a look here. I'm going to search for where we are, Assateague Island. And then I can slowly progress to see what solar will be over time. And the yellow is the really high solar. So as you can see, I'm in an area, the red, when the storms come through, I'm not going to get as much solar. Well, I think I'm going to just have to put my little spot about where we are. Now you can see it says 271 watts. So I'm not quite sure what that measure is, but I can kind of see what's going on. And if I click my little arrow, it's going to progress through time to show me what solar will be coming in. So it gives me a good gauge of if I know I'm going to have a bad solar day or a good solar day. And I can do this a couple of days out where I'm going. So just one more tool in the toolkit for predicting how much solar you might be able to get. Well, it's 4:30 and we have 82% battery. So it's just about time to do dinner. Now technically, if we didn't do the oven or the stove, we could probably go all night because we'll use maybe 40% of the battery overnight, still leaving us another 30 to 40% in the morning. But we want to go ahead and charge up our batteries 100%. Just in case tonight, I am going to go ahead and turn on the convection oven as well. So we'll be using the full 3,000 watts from the generator. Tonight's dinner, egg rolls, but we're going to try, instead of frying them, we're going to try to do them in the air fryer, see how that goes. And there we are, only 50 watts of solar coming in at 4:30. Hopefully we'll only have to run it for an hour maybe. One thing good about running our generator, you're supposed to run it at least an hour every week, so we're giving the generator some good exercise. Just heard the transfer switch kick in. So we should see some AC input in just a few seconds. There it goes. Now let's see, we are going to air fry, which is going to be pretty hot. I'm going to try 375 at 18 minutes. Watch your AC loads go up. Oh yeah, 2,000 watts. That air fryer uses a lot of wattage. Egg rolls are out of the oven. Really, it's a convection oven that has an air fryer mode on it, but it does pretty good for air frying. So we don't have heavy load from that, so I've turned off the gas hot water heater and turned on the electric hot water heater, because I'll have that extra electricity still coming in from the generator while we finish topping off the batteries. So why not use the electricity to heat the hot water and save the propane? That's what you do. You balance the propane. You can use electric heat when you have excess energy, or propane heat when you're trying to conserve the electricity. We've done pretty good on the propane as well. I have a Mopica tank sensor on my propane. We started off with 18 gallons. After a day and a half of propane heat and using the hot water heater once a day, still have 17 gallons left, it says. And I have Ruvi meters on my freshwater and gray tanks so I can keep track of those. Right now, 88%. We're gonna let the generator go till it's almost 100% and then shut it off for the night. But Now it's dinner time. Hey, Mars, you think it's dinner time? How about you, Phoebe? Yeah, that's what you do. Why do you start playing when it's dinner time?
Is it time to eat?
Whoa! There go the horses running.
Ooh.
Well, the sun's setting, the horses are running somewhere, not quite sure. And we've gone an entire 24 hours on the solar, showing you what we do during the day, running the generator a couple of times. So really, I think what it comes down to is how much you want to conserve. Because we have the residential fridge, we do what we call convenient conservation. So yeah, we turn the lights off, we try not to use extra, but we're watching TV while it's raining outside, we're using the computer, and of course we're cooking when we need to. So I think what it comes down to is, even though it's raining and cloudy, you still can get a little bit of solar, but using what I call our hybrid system, how long we have to run the generator. So today we ran the generator about 2.5 hours. I would say between 2 and 3 hours when it's raining. When it's good and sunny, we might only need to run the generator an hour to 2, depending on how much we use electricity when we're completely off grid. And if we really wanted to conserve and not use much of anything during the day except our residential fridge, I'm sure we could go without running the generator, as long as we have good sunny days. So in short, yeah, you could spend tens of thousands of dollars, get a solar system that might be able to survive on the cloudy days. But I think long term, I know I'm going to need the generator from time to time, so only running it an hour or 2 works out for the best for us. There's still a couple of campers in the campsite still have their generators going. They've been running them a little bit longer than us, so I'm really happy with our setup. So using a little time machine I've got on my iPad, it's actually an app called Sun Surveyor. And it's really helpful to be able to see when the sun rises and when the sun sets on any particular day, as well as what the angle of the sun is for a particular location. So this is Sun Surveyor, and I've marked it as Assateague Island, and I've been able to actually go into the particular date and time and specify on the 25th. Actually, we arrived, I think, on the 28th, and this is where the sun is. So what I can do here is I can see when the sun rises, and it does rise at 7:22 a.m., sets at 6:06 p.m. And if you see here, as I go during the day, 8, 9, 10, the sun rises, and it's at its peak probably close to 12, and it's only 37 degrees. So if you look here, 37, 38, closer to 1, almost 39, and that's about the highest that it's actually going to get into the sky. So this is what I mean by the sun really doesn't get that high. Using my VRM app, I'm able to see what the daily consumption and daily solar input was. So this was the day we arrived in Assateague. While we were driving, we did get a little bit of solar, 1.2 kilowatts. We consumed 7.4, but we had been plugged in the morning over on the previous campground. But then this is the first full day that we were at Assateague. We pulled in during the day 2.3 kilowatts. Now you'll see the solar was taking care of things during the day. And then what we did was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we ran the generator so that we could peak it. And you'll see that here. And that's where we had a lot of consumption because we were cooking. So I'd use the induction stove. I'd probably turn on the electric hot water heater, maybe even use the air fryer and convection oven. So that's why the consumption is so high during those 3 times, because while I'm running the generator for about an hour and a half to top off the batteries, we were also using those high wattage appliances. But then we stopped using it. Now, we didn't have to run the air conditioner at night, so it was pretty good. But if you look, 2.7, that was a little bit better of a solar day the next day. We didn't consume as much. But then it got cloudy on one day when it only had 0.4 or 400 watts of solar the entire day. The next day, probably our best solar day, we had 3 kilowatts coming in, but we still consumed overall 7.5. Now again, If we didn't use those high capacity appliances to cook, if instead I had used propane, then these two peak times of this 1.6, 1.8, it's probably 2 kilowatts that we could have saved there. And we would have been a lot closer on our solar with our total consumption. So it was around April 1st when we got there. Let's go back. April 1st, 2024 at Assateague again. So when we were coming back up north, we were at Assateague, and so let's see what it does there. So again, the sun is rising at 6:45, so it's rising earlier, setting at 7:24. It's setting later. But the sun also gets higher in the sky. So as we rise it here, we're 54 degrees, 55 degrees, 56 degrees, almost 57 degrees. Let's see what that looks like on the VRM app. So I'm going to go back and we'll go to April 1st at midnight to April 2nd at midnight and see what our consumption there is. Now here, we're pulling in 1.6 kilowatts. So it's not as high as the 3 kilowatts we were doing during the fall, but remember, this was a cloudy and rainy day. So because the days are longer, we still were pulling in pretty good. As a matter of fact, the day before, this is probably the day we arrived, we had 2.5 kilowatts because it was a sunnier day. And then we were consuming 8.1. Now, if we go, you'll see here that we were running the generator both in the morning and again in the evening. So that's why we have those higher consumptions, and you'll see the bump in our total battery capacity. So we brought it up to about 89% there, and then we brought it up to almost 100% in the evening. So that's what we were doing with our generator. In the morning, we would run the generator for about an hour, hour and a half to bring the batteries up to about 80, 90%. And then in the evenings, we bring them up to the full 100% for overnight. So running the generator, bringing in 7.9 kilowatts. So we had to bring in a lot more kilowatts here, and we were using it a lot more. 1.4 kilowatts of solar. And then we finally had what looked like probably our drive day, and it was a sunnier day, 3.1 kilowatts of solar coming in. So a lot better solar when the sun was actually shining. So that's our comparison of solar coming on cloudy but longer days and sunny but shorter days. All in all, you got to look at both. You got to look at how high the sun is, how long your days are, and if it's going to be cloudy or sunny. And using that windy app, as we showed, is a really good way to anticipate what your solar might be during the day. So you can do forecasts out in the future for a location you're going to be at to see if you're going to have good solar or not good solar. So using those tools, you can manage yourself and conserve as much as you need to, or run the generator as much as you need to if you need to consume those higher wattage appliances. Hope this has helped you give a little bit more information about solar on a sunny versus cloudy days. So till next time, keep smiling and be kind. Safe travels, everyone.